Hello and welcome to Gabbett Media. I'm Grant Abbott, and today I'm going to be talking about the biggest mistakes new freelancers make. So I'll be going through that and what you can therefore do about it, and I'll be summing up some news later on. So I think the biggest mistake that new freelancers make is underselling and over-promising. So you really want the job, you're kind of desperate for the work because you're a new freelancer and you're desperate to make new relationships with clients, so you offer too much and you charge too little. And it's a mistake that I recently made as well. So a new client approached me and I was excited to have a new client as always. I wouldn't say I'm a new freelancer, but I'm relatively new. So I'm still sort of searching away. Because I have my part-time teaching and my YouTube channel, I don't have to worry so much about income, so I can be a bit more choosy about the projects I take on. But I thought this sounds quite a fun one, and I suppose because I'm quite a positive person anyway, I tend to sort of overestimate things and underestimate the time it's going to take me. Initially I didn't do that. I was fairly good. And they came in with the project and I said, yep, it will cost this much and it will take me this long. And actually I was costing more than their budget allowed, apparently. So I was sort of nervous from that point of view, in the sense that, not that I was desperate for the work, but I thought I'll probably price them out. But that is one of those things you have to get used to if you want to make a living doing this. I talked about doing projects for free and things like that to gain clients and so forth, and when you're just starting out, maybe you're a student or that sort of thing, doing projects for free is fair enough. But you don't want to get in too much of a habit of that because you can't obviously make a living, and you're kind of doing a disservice to the profession as well. The more people that do that, the easier it is for people to exploit people in the profession. So you do have to watch out for that to a degree, but we kind of have to look after ourselves in a sense as well. I'm babbling a bit now, but the project went on. It was an animated music video, so fairly straightforward, just sort of animated text moving around. They've got a sort of kinetic text, that's what I was expecting, and that's what they described, and that's where I failed. And this is, I would always say, it's a two-way thing. You can't complain about the client. You can never really do that, because unless they completely rip you off and don't pay you or something, then you can complain as much as you like. You probably won't get your money back though. But you can't, in these situations, you can have bad clients, as it were. But this wasn't a bad client at all. They were a good client. In fact, they paid promptly, and they were good at communicating and things like that. And it was actually more my fault. Partially theirs, in a sense that they didn't understand what they really wanted, or how to communicate that to a degree. But it was more my fault of rushing into it and not getting the full story of exactly what they wanted. So one of the things that you can do to avoid this mistake is make sure you've got things like a storyboard or a clear shot list and clear guidelines as to what they want. We were going over sort of chatting it through, and I think roughly what they want is this, so I'm pricing on this. But be a bit more sure before you price up. That would be my first bit of advice. It was a kinetic type music video, but they wanted a background of the sort of sheet moving and sort of glinting in the light and things. And I thought that would be quite interesting, because I can do a cloth simulation for that, and that'd be quite fun, because I haven't done many of those before and I want to learn about that. I always try and take projects on where I can learn a bit as well. That's possibly not a good idea in some ways, because you don't know exactly how long those things are going to take. But that was fine. Set the budget and did some tests, sent them off and said, how's this looking? They're really excited. And then they said, so when the characters come in, and that's when I froze slightly. What characters? So obviously I responded with what characters. If you want to add characters to this, that's going to be a huge amount of time and more budget. And that's when it got a bit awkward, in the sense that I wanted to keep going. I'm very sort of people-pleasy, and you've got to be careful of that. So I was over-ambitious. I thought, well, I suppose I could put a character in under the sheets, this was the thinking, and it got worse. So the character was on the sheet moving, and I thought, well, the cloth simulation can be on a character, and I can download a free model off Blend Swap or something like that, and that shouldn't be too much hassle animating them. But I always overestimate my abilities and the time it's going to take me. It's one of those things that you think, oh, well, yeah, that'd be fine. It'll probably take a day to do that, and then but you forget things like render times, issues you're going to come up against, glitches, which happens with cloth simulations. You just forget about these things, and you need, I would say, look at best case scenario and then double that time, and that's how much you should be budgeting for. So that's another thing you can do, budget for how long you think it's going to take you, and then double the time, because inevitably it will probably take double the time you think it's going, especially if you're like me and you're sort of very positive thinking it's going to take this long. That's where you end up going. So take your time with your budgets and double them. This client always wanted to talk on the phone, and I appreciate that. That sort of face-to-face talking, you can get a lot more done. But I like to communicate by email as well. That's really important, so you have a sort of a trail, and you can say, well, in this email we said this, and then you can be sort of clear of exactly what you've done and what they've asked for. So it's very important to have those emails as well. Even if the client wants to talk over the phone, make sure you put it in writing as well. That's another tip. We did sort of discuss that the budget would have to increase, and they were able to find some more funds, which was great, and they paid me really promptly, which was so they are a good client in that sense, definitely. But it got more complicated. The project again sort of took on another life of its own, and there was the characters were needed to be sort of not animated as such, because I sort of kind of refused to do that because that was too much. But they wanted some animated characters, and they wanted them sort of hugging and kissing and things like that, which is very tough to do. So I compromised and had sort of still characters, but again there was more sort of rendering materials, and they weren't just under the sheets anymore, so there was a lot more going on, and they wanted this animated text as well, and that's where it got really tough, and I just ran out of time with the project. I couldn't keep going because I had my animation project coming up, or my animation challenge, which you can join in on to watch the videos for that. So I was worried that I was going to just go into that time, and what I had to do in the end, unfortunately, was to just say, look, this is as far as I can go with this project. I'll do as much as I can, and I had to give them quite a substantial refund, because I don't feel right taking the money if I've not finished the job. I don't want to be that sort of person, and I don't think it's good to sort of money grab like that, because you will just burn your bridges with people. And in fact, we've left it, it's still not finished, the project. In fact, they've passed it on to a sort of animator, and I did a few more little bits and pieces that I could just about fit in to try and help them out to finish the project. But it was a bit of a disaster in that sense from my end, and obviously their end. And the main thing throughout, and the main lesson to be learnt, I would say, is the communication. At the beginning, make sure you know exactly what they want. Shot lists, storyboards, things like that are going to be vital. Get it in writing as well, so it's clear, not just over the phone, because you can get the wrong impression over the phone. You can get ideas when you think it's something and it's not. So if it's in writing, it's quite clear, and they sort of have to take time to write it out. And also, really important, don't get angry with the client and their misunderstanding, because they don't understand what's involved a lot of time in this sort of 3D work. Because if they knew what was involved, they would be thinking, why on earth would anybody take these jobs on? It's because we love it. They are extremely hard, extremely difficult, and very technical. You need lots of knowledge, lots of creativity. So to other people, they just don't understand the time it takes to do these things. So be honest about that time, and don't assume they understand the amount of time it's going to take you. So it was a bit of a disaster, but the important thing is I've left it, I think, in a good place. I didn't completely get no money for it, I've got sort of half, and the project is still ongoing. I may still help them in the future if I find pockets of time that I can help out. But I think that's the best way to leave those sort of projects, rather than just sort of not contacting people. You have clients, I've had builders, plumbers and people like that who you just lose contact with, and you think, okay, so that's it then, is it? And they just won't answer your phone calls. Don't be that sort of person. You will burn bridges. It's just not good for you in this sort of industry, believe me. Anyway, so those are my tips. The main tips is the communication and the emails, but from the start, be really clear. So moving on, you'll probably notice my the studio has changed. I've got a green screen in the background. I'm testing it out, seeing how it works. It's not my ideal scenario, really. So the competition winners are hopefully floating around in the background, all going well. The current competition is transport, but there is sort of a delay on that. Do get across the Discord server to find out more about that. I'll put the deadline in the description because it's gone from my brain at the moment. And I'd like to say thanks to all my patrons. I don't say enough of that because it's growing in number, which is wonderful, and it kind of allows me to do this sort of YouTube channel. So obviously viewers, thank you very much, and audience members, thank you very much. Those that subscribe is very much appreciated, but my patrons as well, because I don't say enough thank yous to those people, so I really appreciate that. If you want to be my patron, then do look at the link in the description. I try not to advertise it too much, that's not what this channel's about. It's about learning and being creative and new avenues and pathways. That's what I think. But the more income I can make from it, the more time I can spend on it. So thanks very much. Also, my website's being worked on, so if you do visit my website and you're wondering what's going on with the courses, a new website is being worked on, so hopefully I'll sort of be more up to date with things there. And I think that's probably, yes, I suppose animation's obviously going on at the moment as well, so I'll be back to normal tutorials, which I think more people are interested in June. At the beginning of June, hopefully I'll bring back some more sort of beginner-based tutorials, sculpting tutorials, and things like that. If you have any suggestions, then do put a comment below. And I appreciate all the sort of feedback and requests. I can't do really specific requests because it just takes too much time to make a tutorial. But if you want to suggest something, then please do. I can't make any promises, of course, on that. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm babbling now. So I appreciate all your support, and if you're still with me, thanks very much, and I will see you next time.